Hello and welcome to an absolutely sodden Spa-Francorchamps, the first EUROCUP-3 race. The first in this particular series has started under safety car, and you can see on screen exactly why. Absolutely dreadful conditions. We just had a Spanish Formula 4 race a few moments ago that was red flagged, that had one shower and a big crash towards the end. Then rain stopped, and it's kind of went away for about 15 minutes while that race was being cleared away. And then in the meantime, this game. But you get to one part of the circuit, and actually it's not too bad. And then on another, this section of the circuit earlier on, this has actually been relatively dry at the top of the hill past Bruxelles for pretty much for most of the day. But then you get to the lower end of the circuit towards down where Blanchimont is, on the start-finish straight, Le Source, then Eau Rouge, then Radiant onto Kemmel Straight is absolutely sodden. Now, as I said, the race has started. Technically, it has. We're 2 minutes and 6 seconds into it. You really haven't missed much because quite obviously it's under safety car, and it's quite obvious why. However, we have 15 running at the moment, one non-starter. I'm going to go through the grid in a moment's time. But yes, just general welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. This is what it's like in Belgium. It gets wet, and then it doesn't, and then it gets even wetter than it was before. So we had 16 entries this weekend. The 16th, the driver who's not actually gotten started, it would seem, is Kian Shields for Palou Motorsports. Then, so starting 15th, we have Sebastian Ogard for MP Motorsports. Raced really at this level last season, previously in Spanish F4 back in 2021, as I get the years in my brain confused. 14th on the grid. Well, it's not on the grid anymore because the race has started. 14th in the order, Nick Gilkes for DriveX. Then 13th is Javier Segura for Palou Motorsport. Sebastian Gravlund is 12th for MP Motorsport, with Zulemens and Fari 11th for Campos Racing. In the top 10, you have Miran Pinkasov for Palou Motorsport, just behind William Carlson for DriveX, the Swedish racer, starting 9th. 8th is Francesco Braschi for Campos Racing. He is just behind. We have another off. Can't really see in the gloom which one that is. I believe it's one of the MP Motorsport entries. Anyway, Jose Antonio Garcia for MP Motorsports is 7th, with Pierre-Louis Chauvet for DriveX is 6th. Han Senyu starts 5th for GRS Racing, with Tisanapol Intrapuvazak 4th for Campos Racing. Then Bruno Alpino is 3rd, Esteban Masson 2nd, and at the front of the order is Mari Boya for MP Motorsports, who leads this race away as we go green. And it's a steady start. And that is Seyu trying on the outside of Intrapuvazak for 4th and 5th positions. And it is a very, very solid getaway for Boya. And it's really, it's behind where any kind of action is going to happen, if there is any at the moment. Esteban Masson in 2nd position. And I do believe Intrapuvazak and Senyu are really fighting over that 4th and 5th position, with Senyu really sitting in the spray. And you can see how incredibly high that really just rinses the field behind. Masson just looking for any kind of vision whatsoever. That is Senyu trying to get ahead of Intrapuvazak. That's actually for 3rd position. Bruno Del Pino was there, unless he was in the spray and I completely missed him. 25 minutes left in this race. I think that's Franco Braschi trying to get around Han Senyu there. So lots of action in here. We are back into the kind of drier section of the circuit. Still a little bit of dampness here and there, but for the most section of the circuit, as I said a few moments ago, are actually not too bad a condition. By the way, before I forget, and I will forget, as I think it's Intrapuvazak goes off the circuit and then rejoins, a spinner on the dummy lap around that time was actually Sebastian Gravlund for MP Motorsport. He's dropped down to 15th position. Boya leads the race ahead of Masson, with Del Pino was in 3rd, so I just missed him in the spray. and that is Hans Senyu is running in 4th position ahead of Interpuvasak. And 6th is Braschi. As we see, Senyu really challenging Interpuvasak now for 4th position. But it's difficult to do when you got so much spray being shot back at you. Now, there's a little bit of error on the timing and scoring. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, Braschi is not leading this race. I believe he's still down in 8th position. Bit of a snafu there. But it is... I mean, unless Braschi somehow went 6 seconds a lap faster than everyone else, which is what timing and scoring is actually saying, I doubt that very much. And then, 3 seconds a lap faster than everyone in the final sector. Yeah, unlikely. Masson fighting off Senyu. And Senyu just goes right around the outside. Absolutely fantastic. That is that position moved. Zulemans and Fari is up there as well, just behind this slot for Campos Racing, the number 52 entry, if you watch out for him. Just behind, actually. And again, we're coming down to Camel Straight with this huge amount of spray. And Braschi is leading the race. And I'm confused because he's showing 8 seconds a lap faster than the field. So, couldn't be shocked. Braschi's leading the race. Boy is in 2nd place. Masson down. Well, Masson's now down to 4th because he's been passed by Senyu. The gaps, I have to admit, 6 seconds from Braschi in the middle sector last time round. He's 2.5 seconds faster in sector 1 this time around. He was 3 seconds faster. I don't know what he's doing, what he's managing in these wet conditions to be 8 seconds a lap faster than the field. This is crazy. I love it. It's fantastic. One who's enjoying it probably a little bit less is Sandoval Interpuvasak, who's under pressure from Pierre-Louis Chauvet just behind. Interpuvasak dropped down to 7th place. Now he's dropped off the circuit before rejoining. And I do believe Garcia has actually gotten past Chauvet in the melee there. Rory asking in the chat, is he on different tyres? I'd be really shocked. I can't imagine he's on that different tyres because the conditions of the circuit on one set are so wet, but then actually relatively dry. In another section, this is crazy. He's 8 seconds a lap faster than everyone else in sector 2. It's like he's in another formula. I initially thought that maybe he'd actually overshot something. Wow. It's one of these things. Every so often you hear these little stories. For example, Hans Senyu, by the way, has jumped into 2nd place. Mara Boy has had an off somewhere. As Victor Suda says in the chat, dude must have taken a shortcut. Maybe once, but he seems to be 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds a lap faster in every single sector. This is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. Zulemans and Fari now up to 3rd place ahead of Maya Boya. I have no idea what difference Braschi has made, but it's working. Absolutely working. It's astonishing. He's already got 12 seconds off of Senyu in 2nd position, as we see some drivers don't go off there. Goodness gracious me. And it's a very, very topsy-turvy race so far. Braschi leading by miles, and it's beginning to ease out now, because now he was only 1 second faster than the field in sector 1. Hans Senyu is in 2nd place, Zulemans and Fari 3rd. They got ahead of Mari Boya, the pole sitter and initial race leader. Esteban Masson, who was running 2nd for a while, has dropped down into 5th position. We're watching the fight now between William Karlsson and Jose Antonio Garcia, and Karlsson takes the position as Garcia goes wide. That's over 10th and 11th places. And we're seeing a replay. Several drivers going off the inside line at Radion. It might save you a half a second there, but it's a hell of a risk to get it kind of wrong or bottom out in that corner. And Ash Brian mentions in the chat, you wouldn't be surprised if there's a penalty or something coming from them. Maybe some crazy illegal tweak. It could be something as simple as just suspension settings. It could really be that simple. It could be tire settings, tire pressures. It could. Oh, careful. It's, these conditions when the temperature is that low, that really could be the difference. And he's getting faster. He's just set another fastest lap in this race at 2 minutes 31.1. To put this into perspective, Senyu is about to come across the start-finish line and set a lap of 2:35.0. So the track is actually getting quicker, but Braschi is still 4 seconds a lap faster than the next fastest driver. And this is crazy. Senfari is coming across the line. He's third with a 2 minutes 36.8. But then everyone else from 4th position onwards is still doing 2 minutes 42s, 2 minutes 44s. So I can only assume they've come across some absolutely mega settings. As we see Javier Segrer challenging Pierre-Louis Chauvet for 7th place. And he really sliding. I can only imagine that Braschi and Campos Racing have nailed something in tire pressures or suspension setup or something like that to giving them such an incredible window performance. But wow. Miran Pingasov, I don't want to pick on anyone in particular. Miran Pingasov was 2 minutes 52 last time around. He's 21 seconds a lap off of Braschi's pace. And it's just, this could very simply be a case of a driver or a team who've got the setup absolutely nailed, and then others who simply haven't. Braschi, of course, does have a little bit more experience than a lot of the racers in the race today. He's raced in Formula 4, of course, for 3 seasons, but has also done, regional European Championship, Formula Regional area, Asia. And, oh yes, slide. Don't want to lose it there, man. Well, meanwhile, William Karlsson, 10th position. And he's got to Sanapol Interprovizak just behind. And Interprovizak really does seem to be struggling in these conditions, not having much fun at all. And whatever advantage that Braschi has out front, it's kind of beginning to maybe level out somewhat because he's no longer setting purple sectors each time around. Although he's just still set the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 30.9. We'll wait about 20 seconds or so for Senyu to come around. Karlsson just updated on time and it's scoring screens that he has got past Interprovizak. Gilke is up to 11th. Ogard is 12th. 13th is Garcia. And we have a spinner, and it's the number 99. It is Jose Antonio Garcia, who was 11th place in the gravel. Wheels stuck. That's going to be a safety car. Well, turn 13. Back end of the circuit is so digging so deep in the gravel, and we see Braschi going clean off the circuit. That was at Lecombe as he's going through the Bruxelles section now. I would be stunned really, if this is not a safety car call, because Garcia's car is properly beached. It's not getting out of the gravel anytime soon. Yeah, and that's going to require marshals and a truck and What an astonishing first race in EUROCUP-3. And Braschi Started quite, pretty much in the second third of the order, really, and has been so astonishingly quick in these changeable conditions. That is the most miserable sight in the world, to be stuck in a car and waiting basically as the field goes past. The total length of these races, this race one was 30 minutes plus 1 lap. So we're pretty much just over the halfway point in this race. Now, there are questions in the chat as to whether Braschi was on slicks. I mean, I doubt it so much. If he was on slicks, I would actually imagine that he would be much slower than everyone else, because it's simply too damp. To me, this just feels like maybe they've nailed the tire pressures absolutely right. Oh, they got the suspension or damper settings absolutely right. Because, and that was kind of what I was about to mention a few moments ago. And hey, look, in the background, blue skies, wonderful. There is a story about Gilles Villeneuve at Montreal in 1978, something like that. And I think it was in practice, one of the practice sessions. It was absolutely horrific conditions, incredibly wet, where no one really was going out setting incredibly fast times. It was just dangerously wet to a degree. And of course, Villeneuve went out and set a lap that was effectively 11 seconds faster than the next fastest driver, who was his teammate. I can't remember who was the teammate at that stage in 78 Ferrari. It wasn't Scheckter. Someone can tell me. Anyway, here's Braschi. And the field is finally catching up with him. And what a disappointment for him, because we can talk about settings and all that kind of stuff. You'd still have to get into the car and drive it. Now, that is Ogard in the pits. Do you know what? Was he on dries? Oh, that would explain a lot. That would explain a great deal. Wow. Well, there you go. Well, the only thing I can think of in that order was... Well, that is strange, because the rain shower did come very late. It normally, though, if the rain shower comes in towards a dummy lap, and you get a very sudden change in conditions, you're generally allowed to change your tires to wet tires. So that would be a surprise if they were basically allowed to continue to go out basically on dry tires in what were awfully wet conditions. It would explain a great deal, but it's still a real surprise that that would happen. So the safety car is in this lap. Ogard is the only driver who basically pitted. So if it is the case that Braschi and maybe one or two other drivers were on wet tires, I mean, the others are still out on slicks. And the circuit's not going to drive that much in 10 minutes. Now, it's not inconceivable that possibly their tires could burn up a little bit more. But even still, but then again, you get to this area of the circuit, it's greasy. It's definitely greasy and it's definitely struggling for grip. But you're not going to be burning through the tires that much. You're going to got 10 minutes and 1 lap remaining. So the safety car is in this lap, and we will see now. Ogard, keep an eye on Ogard. He has pitted. He's now down in 14th place, and he's coming up to the rear of the order. Now, his progress will be very interesting to watch. And I'd be very interested, if it is a case of several drivers in wet conditions stayed out on slicks, was that a driver decision or a team decision? And that's where a kind of inexperience kind of really plays to things. But for now, we're going to get a restart. 9 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. Blue skies in the background. Say hooray. This race's track is going to dry up quite quickly, and that could really change things significantly next few minutes as Braschi gets to go ahead. Senyu just behind, but he's got Suleiman and Fari, and you can see actually they are gunning for the wetter parts of the circuit because maybe they are beginning to overheat slightly. Still not anywhere near dry enough really to have a commanding pace on slick tires in these conditions. Look out the other side of the screen. Looks like it's going to rain again. Braschi building a nice early gap from Senyu. Zanfari running there in third place. Mari Boya, who was the pole sitter, is fourth ahead of Esteban Masson. And it's still incredibly wet. There's a bit of damage there on Senyu's car, and it was flapping slightly earlier in the race, but it's definitely dislodged now. The section of the nose box just ahead of the driver. Now, that's not necessarily a safety issue in that sense. That would be the access point for the suspension settings and all that kind of stuff. But it's not inconceivable that the stewards would call him in to get that replaced or taken off completely, because what you don't want is that's flapping now, is it for wind to get underneath and then pull it off and fly through the air. Braschi is pulling away. He's already set the purple sector for sector 1. He's already pulling away. Oh, and off the circuit. Don't throw it away, young man. Goodness gracious me. Back onto the circuit, but was sliding all full wheels on the runoff area. We'll see what the gap to Senyu is in a few moments' time. It was 9/10 of a second a few moments ago at sector 1. But yeah, things have changed slightly since then. And you can see still really some very, very big differences. A lot of the field basically from Boya onwards, very much in the 45s. And Braschi's already got 2.5 seconds on Senyu in sector 2 alone. He's absolutely shot up the field. 7 minutes plus 1 lap remaining as we come down to the final few laps in this race. And you see the massive spray coming down towards Blanchimont. If you a safety car again, and I wonder actually, are we getting another shower somewhere? There's a yellow flag at turn 13. So I haven't seen where exactly or why exactly there should be a safety car, unless it is rain has returned. On the back end is, there we go. Number 55, that is Miran Pingasol for Palu Motorsport. Beached, but not the nice kind of beach. His day is done. He trudges to the barrier. And that's thoroughly beached, and that's going to be a few minutes to really get a JCB and dig in and get there. We did have one other overtake on that lap. Javier Sagrera took Bruno Del Pino. That was for 6th and 7th positions. But at this point, Nick Gilquez has actually popped into the pits as well from 12th position. So Sebastian Ogard is now up to 12th. Didn't really make any kind of headway on that last lap, did Ogard. Well, actually, no, I tell a lie. He kind of did. He hadn't actually caught up to the rear of the field completely by the time the race started. So he was about 10 seconds a lap faster than Interpuvazak and Gravelum than Gilquez. So he pretty much got to a stage where he was nearly caught up to the field. He was about 20 seconds behind. Pretty much would have caught them within a lap and a half, maybe, given his pace there. But I mean, he's definitely going to catch up to the end of the field now. There's no, obviously. But will he have enough time to make use of those wet tires in these conditions? Because that is really going to take quite a while to get Pingasov's car moved from the runoff area. That they put him back into the cockpit. Basically, this will speed things up. Rather than just attach the tow rope and have the car meander aimlessly across the track, have the driver inside directing it. At least then they can actually point the car towards the marshal section or the marshal opening to get the car out of the way. Yeah, 4 minutes and 15 seconds. I mean, the pack is really, really, really bunched up. And I do wonder, hey, we got a car coming in the background, and that is... It's probably a bit too late to get the race restarted this time around. Pingasov's car, they are actually quite close to a Marshall point. It's just gone out of screen now. But it's getting... Ah, wait, safety car in this lap. I have seen this before. It's basically a methodology whereby in certain sections you really slow the field down, with the idea being that you know, if you're trying to get the safety car clear, rather than have an additional safety car lap, slow the car field, let the accident be cleared up completely, so you do get an extra lap of racing. So we're going to go green again. We have basically just over 3 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. Francesco Braschi is at the front of the order for Campos Racing. He's been absolutely stellar. Yeah, you can argue about what tires he was on, etc., 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 etc. But he has handled the conditions absolutely fabulously. Can't knock that. So, it's Braschi, it's Senyu, it's Sanfari, it's Boya, it's Masson, it's Sagrea, it's Delpino, it's Chauvet, it's Carlson, it's Interprovazak. That is your top 10 as they come into the bus stop chicane. It's going to be a right. Not really a chicane anymore. Sad. A little bit of a left. He gets a good start, does Braschi. The sun is out now. 2.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, and he gets a good go. Away is Zanfari once again under the rear wing of Senyu. Will he try and make a dive down the inside this time around? He doesn't kind of peel to the outside. Maybe he's going to try and get under the rear wing of Senyu as they come out of Les Sources, then down into the dip that is Rouge, flicks back up to Radion, and then on the Camel straight. And he is sticking there. You can see that is Maria Boya with Esteban Masson just behind. And just behind them is Javier Segura in a Palou Motorsport car. Senyu has pulled away slightly from Zanfari. Still a little bit surprised there hasn't been some notification. And oh, down the inside, that is Esteban Masson, a fantastic move, but he goes wide. But if he holds that position, he may be penalised. Boya goes through the inside and retakes 4th position. And just behind them is Segura, who's looking to try and get around the outside of Masson. Not going to make it through there. So Boya in 4th position, ahead of Masson, ahead of Segura, with Delpino just behind in 7th position. But Braschi has cleared out once again, pulling away from the pack. Maybe not as ferociously as he was before. And just as I say that, he sets a purple sector in Sector 2, which is 3 and a bit seconds faster than Senyu. So forget what I just said. It's absolute nonsense. But meanwhile, we're looking at this battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th positions. Masson is going to try and get another run on Boya as they enter into Blanchemont area. By the way, for those watching, paying close attention, Ogard has just passed Chauvet to get into 8th position on wet tires. Really making hay while he can in the still damp conditions. He's chasing after Delpino for 7th position. Actually, he might actually be up with this battle for 4th in just a few moments. Meanwhile, Braschi has cleared away. The gap is around about 6 seconds. Braschi has just set the fastest lap of the race at 2 minutes 29.8. Ahead of Senyu. And Ogard, by the way, has just gotten Delpino, by the way, so he's already up to 7th place. He's joined that battle for Boya, Masson, Segura, and for 4th, 5th, 6th. This is the last lap of the race. I see Senyu go through. Then you see Zanfari. Next is going to be Boya. There he is. And now you got Masson. Then you got Segre. And then in the orange car, just at the back of it, is Ogard on those wet tyres. He may be able to just drive right past, and he does. Ogard up to P6. And that seems like, it's an issue for Segura. But this is Braschi on his final lap of the race, pulling away. He took another half a second out of Senu in the first sector. Absolutely incredible stuff today. As we see, this is Moya. Is that was an Ogard ahead of Masson, is it? No, I don't think it is. Apologies. Losing my mind somewhat. Oh, this has been a very, very busy race. Been a very, very busy race for Tisanopol Intrapuvazak. There, 11th place in the white machine, number 14, started 4th. Not gone too well for him at all. And that is Ogard trying to go around the outside of Masson, maybe. He could still do 5th position in this race. But absolutely astonishing scenes here at Spa-Francorchamps, from dry to wet, to kind of wet to dry, to slicks, to wet tires, and everything in between. Francesco Braschi wins. What an incredible drive. What an incredible performance. What incredible tactics. And Francesco Braschi is the first winner of a EUROCUP-3 race. Hans and Yu take second place ahead of Zuleman Zanfari, with Mari Boye 4th. Sebastian Ogard did get to 5th position. He passed Masson in the final stretches. Nick Gilkes took 7th place after he changed to wet tyres very late on. He went from 12th to 7th. Bruno Del Pino stuck it out and finished 8th. Pierre-Louis Chauvet came home 9th. Tisanopol Intrapuvazak took 10th place ahead of William Carlson, who dropped to 11th late on. Sebastian Gravlund took 12th, and we have one finisher coming, and it's Javier Segura taking 13th and last position. That is, quite frankly, one of the strangest races I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen plenty over the years. Wow. It was the top 3 drivers pull into podium positions, and Braschi's completely missed the podium boards, but there you go. Wow. That is quite incredible. It would be interesting to see. I mean, mentioned in the chat there by Warwick F1, Boya just staying ahead of Ogard in the final order while Boya was on dries and Ogard was on wets. I can only imagine a couple of more corners, and that would have been a different story. Brilliant debut by all the drivers, and it has to be special mention to Palu Motorsport, by the way, who didn't really have the best race in the world, but that is a new team from Alex Palou and his father in both Formula 4 and EUROCUP-3. But meanwhile, the real congratulations go to Campos Racing and Francesco Braschi, and a bunch of really very, very, very happy young drivers. And this is an interesting little category, EUROCUP-3, designed very much to be a kind of the step up from Spanish Formula 4, but also sitting just below Formula 3 in the ladder. It's a with more of a concentration on costs in this category, and we've seen some very, very exciting racing today. As the rest of the field has been pulled into their paddock, which is just off of near Bruxelles, actually. And I've been down there. It's always muddy. And a fantastic drive too by Hansenyu. Look, you could argue that these guys were on wet tires when others were on dry. Well, you know what? You got to be able to. You got to make that decision in the first place, and that can backfire horribly. It's podium for Zanfari. And you can make that last minute change and actually find yourself within 2 laps that you're completely the wrong tire, the completely wrong scenario. And you got to make those kind of choices, and that's sometimes what really separates some racing drivers from others, is to make you take that chance, make that change, and if you can do that and it works well, you end up with a scenario like Francesco Braschi and Hansenyu and Suleiman Savari. If you make that change and you get it wrong, you end up like Mikko Hakkinen at the Nürburgring in 1999 when on wet tires on what was a perfectly dry track. But hey, that's watch that afterwards if you want. So some very, very, very happy drivers coming through, and you can understand really there probably would have been a little bit of nervousness in those last few laps for Braschi. Although why? He was 10.7 seconds ahead of the second place Mansenyu, Zuleman Sanfari third for Campos Racing. Then a pair of MP Motorsports, you got Mari Boyd and Sebastian Ogard, climbed back up to fifth very late on. Then Esteban Masson dropped down to sixth. Nick Gilkes seventh. He gained 5 positions in the last couple of laps. Bruno Lupino eighth. Pierre-Louis Chauvet for DriveX's ninth. Tisanopol Interpuvazak took 10th. William Carlson 11th. He lost a couple of positions in the last laps. Then Sebastian Gravlund was 12th. Javier Sagrera was 13th. Miran Pingasov wasn't missing. He was just on the other side of a barrier on the far side of the circuit. And the other non-classified racer was Jose Antonio Garcia, who spun off early on in the race. And Cian Shields for Palu Motorsport did not start. Yeah, I mean, the risk you have. Oh, there you go. The risk you have in that scenario where you are on wet tires and the circuit has been getting a little bit drier, and the safety car comes out, and suddenly you find you had a massive advantage and it kind of weans down to nothing, that suddenly you find yourself in a scenario where your tires were once great and they're no longer great, and those who were on maybe dry tires pass you by. Didn't happen this time around. Track didn't get dry enough. But it was still some stellar racing. And everyone really took it quite easy in their opening laps, because it was really a case of finding out really where the kind of wet patches were and how dry it was on the far side of the circuit. It was a second lap in the race where Braschi really made the storm up the order. He was running 7th or 8th, I believe. And I was quite bewildered. I actually thought it was a timing and scoring error when suddenly he got a purple sector that was 6 seconds a lap faster. In Sector 2, 6 seconds a lap faster than anywhere else. And then he was 3 seconds a lap faster in Sector 3, then 4 seconds a lap faster in Sector 1 in the next lap. And suddenly it kind of it was like, oh, wait a minute, maybe he's on a vastly different strategy scenario than everyone else. And turns out he was. Sanyu may be slightly disappointed that even in those conditions and still on wet tires, that Braschi was that much faster than him. The last lap, by the way, I mean, Braschi was still 4.7 seconds a lap faster than Sanyu on that last lap alone. And again, that's where the kind of little differences come in. You can both be on wet tires, when that's kind of where things like tire pressures and things like that come in. But that's racing, and we are going to leave you for today. It's been an incredible race. Francesco Braschi winning ahead of you and Sanfari. We will be back tomorrow, very, 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 very early. 8 a.m. UK, 9 a.m. Central European time. Actually, we'll see the times come up specifically at the end of this broadcast. But thank you very much for joining us at Spa-Francorchamps for the first ever EuroCup-3 race. My name has been Leo Gorman. This has been an absolutely insane race, and I've loved every single second of it. I hope you did too. Until tomorrow, see you then.